Hey, welcome back. Nah, it wasn't really the president. He's over in Davos. But when he's out of the country, we go to Johnny DiDomenico, great friend of the show and one of the best Trump impersonators out there. Joining me now is no impersonator at all. He's one of the finest conservative talk radio hosts, nationally syndicated radio host. Kevin McCullough joins us, heard here in New York on AM 970 The Answer and heard around the country every day of the week. This is one of the hardest working men out there. Kev, thanks for joining us for a little liquid lunch.
John, it's good to be back with you. Happy New Year. Haven't seen you since the holiday party here in your
thank you
great
very much.
studio.
And I see that you're well fortified there for.
Well, you know,
you're a card carrying.
Honestly,
member of
is
the
it
Liquid
ever
Lunch
too
Bunch.
early for a good G&T?
No,
I'm
gin
just saying.
and tonic is fine anytime.
There we go.
That's for sure. So, Kev, I mean, you're on every day pontificating, talking about it, carrying the message about what a great job Donald Trump is doing. Mm-hmm. I am going berserko over here about this whole impeachment thing when we know it's a foregone conclusion. What are your insights on what's happening right now?
Well, so little inside baseball. I've got Brad Parscale, the head of the Trump 2020 team, on the show this afternoon. I'm going to ask him about this, but I was talking to him before, and he said, this is the biggest sham that's ever been pulled over the American people. And he's done some internal polling. He's polled citizens, and he's asked them, you know, what are your thoughts about impeachment? What can you tell me about impeachment? What's one of the articles of impeachment? 1 in 200 can tell him even only one thing about what impeachment is about. Now, when you consider that this has taken up real estate in media like you wouldn't even believe, for them to have that kind of penetration in terms of what their message is, this is a sham. Chuck Schumer comes out today and says, Donald Trump has committed crimes against democracy, but he doesn't know what the crime is. Did you know there's no crimes actually claimed in the articles? I mean, it's really remarkable.
They call it high crimes and misdemeanors, and then now
there's no crime.
For convenience, they say, well, it doesn't actually have to be a crime. And then in another moment, they're saying, this is crazy. This is a trial. We need witnesses. We need documents. We need...
Right.
And if it's a trial, then we also need a crime. And there's not one thing in the criminal code that's laid out here as an article of impeachment.
Not only that.
To your point, I just want to say this to you. I've had a number of people who know, I talk politics and all this other stuff, come up to me and actually say, hey, is it true? Trump's not the president anymore. People think, I'm saying, they're not uninformed or unintelligent. People are more focused on their life and their family and stuff.
Absolutely.
But they hear impeach, remove from office, and they actually think, oh my God, they did it. They removed him from office.
Well, one of the amazing things about this is that not only can people not identify a crime or anything that was done wrong by the president, people don't actually understand the process at all. And when you're talking about a multi-layered, so Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff come to the cameras this morning. This was just about an hour ago, and they were complaining vehemently. And the lower third on some of the news channels were like, demand new witnesses and evidence. Well, the way this actually works is that the House has done all of the supposed evidence gathering for the indictment. They've delivered this trial now to the evidence to the trial to the Senate for the trial. The Senate is then supposed to judge the merits of what they are presented. And if the House didn't put witnesses in that they felt like needed to be there, or if they kept out due process representation and exculpatory evidence, etc., this is what they're left to judge with. McConnell has absolute say. And the fact that Jerry Nadler or Adam Schiff or even Nancy Pelosi, for that matter, thinks that they can come in, bang a gavel, yell at a few reporters in front of a press conference and say, we demand this, they're smoking weed. I mean, at the end of the day, the Senate is going to handle this. I saw Ted Cruz and some others yesterday saying, if the Democrats get one witness, we get one witness. So if they call John Bolton, we're going to call Hunter Biden. If they call the others on the list, we're going to call Joe Biden. We're going to call the whistleblower. This is probably going to be handled within about a week and a half, very quickly, very cleanly, very neatly, because there's nothing there.
Would be nice.
Kevin, let me ask you about another issue that's gotten a great deal of attention. That's yesterday's gun rights rally in Virginia.
Yeah.
This began as a response to the new gun restrictions that the governor of Virginia put into place. And by the way, we again want to thank Governor Northam for not wearing blackface in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day yesterday.
It was a sacrifice.
Yes,
but
exactly.
He did it.
It's rare. But then we were warned that there were a lot of white supremacists that were going to use this as sort of a Charlottesville-style rally. There were concerns about violence. The governor even declared a temporary state of emergency. Doesn't look like there was any incidents at all.
None. And what Virginia is not admitting, and what Governor Northam's not admitting, is that most gun owners in America are extremely responsible citizens. The interesting thing about yesterday was that you had Antifa and NRA members marching side by side, quietly in a protest that resulted in zero violence. And I will guarantee you there were people packing in that crowd. Massive numbers of people packing in that crowd. And here's another thing people don't know. Did you know that Virginia is one of the few states that actually offers what's called a non-resident concealed carry license, which means you can actually apply for a concealed carry license for the state of Virginia that is, by the way, through reciprocity, accepted in 70% of the rest of the states that is valid. Now, it doesn't affect places like California or New York or New Jersey because these places have the thing with guns that they don't admit the real truth about. But Virginia has been traditionally one of the most gun rights focused states in the Union. And the fact that this governor is so out of touch, not only does he think that babies can be killed after they're born, but he also thinks that the Second Amendment doesn't apply. I have a very big personal passion about the concealed carry waiver. I think we need to see it in New York. I think my Jewish friends have a right to defend themselves when these anti-Semitic attacks are taking place every weekend in Brooklyn, and we see this grainy footage of some thug coming up and punching a Jewish guy. We should have the right to defend ourselves. And the demonstration in Virginia yesterday proved that responsible gun owners are not only good citizens, but they actually behave quite well in public.
Not only that, and it's amazing you point that out because you won't hear this on the left-wing media either. You had groups with way varied opinions actually together. There was no violence. There was no one killed. There was no one run over. Nothing was lit on fire. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Trump is still under fire for this hero down in Texas. When a shooter came into his church, started firing, the guy was a trained in weapons. He took out his gun, boom, put one right in his skull, and ended it. And Trump calls the guy a hero, and the left is still killing him over it. Doesn't trained people with weapons save lives?
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun in every single situation is a good guy with a gun. And Mike Bloomberg has actually gone so far as to say that he thinks that that guy that saved maybe up to 200 lives in that church that morning should not have had the right to do that. That's just insane. This is one of the reasons why Mike Bloomberg will never be president, because he doesn't have a real understanding of the Constitution or the American people. But responsible gun owners that understand gun safety and practice gun ownership responsibly are the best thing about our country, and we should be encouraging it, not discouraging it.
And Kevin, this goes in some respects hand in hand with the recent uptick in anti-Semitic crimes that we've seen, not just in the New York area, but around the country. You have to think that if some of these Orthodox Jewish people that were attacked were carrying arms at the time, or believed to be carrying arms, that maybe the folks doing the attacking would be reluctant to do so.
I've seen that actually play out, Frank, not in New York, but actually in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem. I've been in Israel a lot. They have a much more liberal concealed carry and open carry law over there than they do in New York City. And one of the interesting things is when the police are 6 to 10 minutes away for a crisis, usually an attack can happen within just a matter of seconds. And in both of the instances that happened when I was overseas, it was a private citizen that pulled a weapon and took down an evildoer that stopped what would have been a very bloody and very bad situation from occurring because they had the right to do that. We should have that right here in America as well.
Many people say within 40 seconds with some of these semi-automatic weapons these days, 20, 30, 50 people can be shot. It gives no one any response time except, like you said, someone who's there who's a good guy with a gun. And no matter how great the police are, and the police right here in New York, the NYPD Blue, they're the #1 police force in the country, in the world, if you ask me. They can't get anywhere in 45 seconds. You need people who are armed, trained, and dangerous to knock off some of this stuff right where it's beginning.
Absolutely. I actually believe that in some of these places where concealed carry is really looked down upon, that citizens need to start civilly disobeying and carrying, because I would rather be tried by a jury of 12 than buried by a jury of 6 of my friends.
Wow. Well, I, for one, am not advocating for breaking the law and carrying a concealed weapon.
See,
but
I don't think it's breaking the law.
Well,
Second Amendment says I have the right and it shall not be infringed.
got it. And, you know, we could haggle over what states' rights are and how
That's right.
important those are, but I think...
Need some good Supreme Court precedent
I think
passed down.
people in the country should be trained, licensed, and be allowed to carry a concealed weapon, and that would probably keep a lot of these bad guys a little more on their toes.
Certainly.
We're always on our toes when we have him with us. Kevin McCullough joins us, nationally syndicated radio host. He knows where the rubber meets the road, and you can hear him every single day right here in New York and across the country, right here in New York on AM 970, The Answer. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with John LaRocchia. David J. Bleeden's going to be here from metals.com. And leave it to our politicians to say they're starting the trial at 1 and gavel in and go to lunch. Let's go get a sandwich. Hopefully this trial will get underway at some point, but we're going to take a quick break. As soon as they're back, we'll bring that all to you and more. You're watching Liquid Lunch. Stay right there.